Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a really heavy but super important topic, jihadist terrorism in Europe. We're going to break down what it is according to the officials, look at the hard numbers behind the attacks, and then we're going to uncover this massive contradiction that sits right at the heart of the ideology. So let's dive right in. So where do we even begin? Well, it all starts with this one big question. What is jihadist terrorism, really? And what are the ideas it's supposedly built on? To get to the bottom of this, we can't just take things at face value. We have to look at the official legal definition and hold it up against the very texts this ideology claims to get its authority from. Okay, first up, defining jihadist terrorism. We've got to start with a factual framework, right? On a topic like this, getting the words right is absolutely essential. So we're going to start with the official definition, the one used by European law enforcement, just so we're all on the same page. And here's that definition from Europol. They call jihadism a violent ideology exploiting traditional Islamic concepts. Now listen to that language carefully. The key word, the one that changes everything, is exploiting. See, this isn't random. Europol is making it crystal clear that they see this as an ideology that takes and twists concepts for its own violent goals. It's not about the faith itself, but how it's being misused. And honestly, that distinction is the foundation for everything we're going to talk about today. All right, next section, a shifting threat. Because this isn't a static thing, not at all. The way these attacks are carried out has changed a lot, especially over the last couple of decades. The data shows a really clear evolution. And this really breaks down that change. On the one hand, you have the early 2000s. Think about the Madrid train bombings. Those were big, coordinated attacks by organized groups using complex bombs. It took a lot of planning. But then look at what happens after 2014. The whole game changes. The attacks become, well, more individual. They're carried out by lone actors using whatever they can get their hands on. Guns, knives, even vehicles, like that horrible truck attack in Nice back in 2016. It's a totally different kind of threat. So, let's get into the data on these attacks. This shift in tactics had a truly devastating impact. And to really grasp the scale of it, you have to look at the numbers. They tell a very, very stark story, especially about a few key years. Just look at this table. It's straight from the Europol reports. In 2013, you see 1 death. In 2014, 4. It's relatively low. And then, boom, look at 2015. The number just explodes to 150. It stays terrifyingly high in 2016 with 135 deaths, and then 62 in 2017. That 3-year period, it was just a brutal, relentless wave of violence. And then you can see the numbers start to drop off again in 2018. 150. It's so easy for that to just be a number on a screen, right? But it's not. Each one of those was a person, a life, a family completely torn apart. That was the peak, the deadliest year, 2015. And we really need to sit with that for a second, because that devastating reality is what makes the contradiction we're about to get into so profound. Okay, we're going to make a really intentional shift here. We've just looked at the violence, the data, the grim reality of this ideology in action. Now, let's switch gears completely and look at one of the foundational religious texts it claims to be based on and see what that text actually says about the sanctity of a human life. Here it is. This is from the Quran, Surah Al-Ma'idah. And it says, "Whoever takes a life, unless as a punishment for murder or mischief in the land, it will be as if they killed all of humanity." Just let that sink in. I mean, there's no wiggle room there, is there? It's not ambiguous at all. The text puts this almost unbelievable value on a single human life. Taking one unjustly is like wiping out everyone. And it doesn't stop there. The verse immediately gives you the flip side. It continues, and whoever saves a life, it will be as if they saved all of humanity. It's this perfect, powerful symmetry. So it's not just don't kill people, it's an active, positive command. You must save life. The preservation of life is presented as the ultimate good. So, where does that leave us? Because now we have these two completely different realities, don't we? On one side, you have the brutal data of terrorism. And on the other, you have this foundational text that says life is sacred. Let's put them right next to each other and see what that tells us. And here it is, laid out plain and simple. We have two competing realities. Source number one, Europol, tells us that jihadist terrorism is an ideology that exploits Islamic concepts to justify violence. And source number two, from the Quran itself, gives us a core principle that demands the preservation of life, saying that killing one person is like killing everyone. I mean, these two things, they're not just different, they are in complete, direct opposition to one another. What these terrorists do is the polar opposite of what the text they claim to follow actually says. Which leads us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. How? How can a foundational principle that is so incredibly clear about preserving life get twisted and warped into a justification for taking it? That's the real paradox here. Figuring out what happens in that gap, the space between the original text and the violent ideology that exploits it, that's the key to understanding this entire phenomenon. Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for watching.